Okay, you are live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the NSA ad hoc meeting. This will be one of our last meetings, hopefully, as we make the final edit to our CMC addendum statement. I want to thank all the members of the ad hoc who have stuck with this process that we started months ago so that we would not find ourselves at the 11th hour drafting something that might not really reflect what we wanted to say, simply because it would be expunged or deleted or not included. So thank you. We are here looking at our conclusion because I do believe at our last meeting, we went through the document and fine-tuned it. If I'm not correct on that, please correct me. And what I asked at the end of the meeting was some of our more gifted writers to present maybe a draft of a conclusion, a strong conclusion. And they have done that. And I want to thank them, Commissioner Angela Jackson Castaigne, Mariano Contreras, Deacon Lyles, Reverend Dr. Jacqueline Thompson. So this is what they have offered insofar as a conclusion. So I suggest we take a look at that first, unless you want to go through the whole document again. And honestly, that would not be my preference, but I will defer to what the committee would want to do.
Chair, I have actually one request that we go back to a paragraph on page 3. There was a comment that was in the margins of the document about condensing a paragraph and turning it into a bullet. And I wasn't certain exactly what that comment was intended for that revision of that paragraph to be. I didn't have specific notes on it. That's the paragraph there. Paragraph 4 on page 3. So if the ad hoc members have any sense of how they would like to revise that paragraph, it would be helpful for me.
Is there any way to enlarge that?
Mm-hmm. Give me
you.
that to see here. Okay, is that better?
Much, thank you.
Okay, here we go.
Who made this suggestion that it would be a bullet, and where would this bullet be attached to? Because this was a separate effort. First, there was the enabling ordinance edits, which I think we talked about perhaps in the paragraph just above this. And then there was this effort to change the charter.
I think this, the bullet was in reference, if I can remember correctly, we had a discussion about whether or not this was a success, our ability to get city council to withdraw the proposal and to move it to the bulleted section of a list of successes in, I think it's the page before.
What's the paragraph above? Yeah, I think this was some sort of companion paragraph about setbacks or attacks on our authority and the ability to conduct the work that was given to us under Measure LL and S1.
I thought it was intended to give us a history, or the readers to give a history of what we had to go through. And so that's why it was written
As a
like
paragraph.
that. Yeah.
Chair Peterson, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I have a new setup, so I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine the way it is, and I like the fact that it follows a statement that not only talks about strengthening the commission, but that the committee's voice is vital to these efforts, and it talks about the community and the collaboration between the community and the commission, and I think that follows with what I'm reading in that paragraph about the effort to diminish the strength of the commission was beaten back by the community. And in fact, that's exactly what happened. So I don't know what the thinking is to condense it or make it a bullet, but I'm fine with it just as it is, and where it is.
And even this sentence above, where it says the commission's enabling ordinance ad hoc committee is currently partnering with the city council to revise the commission's enabling legislation under the Oakland Municipal Code. I don't know if it is so much a partnering. They had forged ahead and made all these edits, and they were not even reaching out to us for comments until we realized it was on their agenda. And we kind of stormed the gates and said, wait a minute, you can't do this without having our input. And they paused to allow our input. And whether that's a partnering, I'm not sure. We could call it that. But that's the context, even with this enabling ordinance work we're doing. We were being diminished. They were going to take the IG power from us there as well. So I like it here, but that is my take on this, because I don't know where this bullet would go, if it's a bullet.
I think it's good there, Chair Peterson. I agree with you. And also with the partnering term, if it's a loose term, because I agree with you, but I think that sometimes we have to kind of bite the bullet when we make those, because we can't be totally transparent about what actually took place. But, I think that we're going to have an opportunity to perhaps, provide a narrative to this document. And, that's when we can, elaborate on what actually took place. But I think partner, is fine for now, because, we want to try to be as nice as possible. Thank you.
No, I understand what you're saying, Mariana. And sometimes you just have to reel me in, because some of these were microaggressions and some of these were out attacks. And so thank you for that, giving me a sense of calm.
Well, it does say currently, so that allows for the partnership to have started at some point and also not existing at a prior point.
That's true too. Thank you.
Well, also one thing that I recognize is that not all members of the city council were in step with the idea of the changes that were being proposed.
Okay. All right. That's good to hear. Okay, so where are we? What do we want to do? Because
Could we look at page 5? The last paragraph.
I got your edits, Deacon Lyles, but if there's w- a way you'd specifically like to see your edit worked in, that would be
I
great
just
to hear.
wanted to, I just wanted to read it in to see how it was done. So
It's not in this
Yeah,
version.
okay.
But I do
All right.
have your edit and
all right, okay. Then
Okay,
let's
there's
move on.
there's an edit that we need to drop in here and discuss.
Deacon Lyle suggested that, and I think the way I was going to do it was, change that first bullet to say credentialed and non-credentialed qualified instructors from the department and or from the community.
And I just made that correction because I don't think all of what OPD needs comes from credentialed people in law enforcement. And that's exactly who they would assume is the best to teach their rank and file. But some members from our community who are not credentialed, I take credential meaning some kind of college degree or whatever, but we have people in our community that OPD needs to hear from and learn from who may not have a college degree, but they've lived in, Oakland all their lives, and they know how the problem between police community relations are, and those folks ought to be valuable. Their lived experience is just as valuable as anybody from post coming down and teaching about community relations.
I certainly think that's an important point.
Okay, so we say credentialed and
non-credentialed. What, Katina? You said credentialed and non-credentialed. What?
Qualified.
Qualified.
I dropped some of the language into the chat, Micah.
Oh,
if you want to
perfect.
cut and
Thank you,
paste it.
Katina. Yeah, thank you. Perfect.
to the chat.
Yep, I got it. Credentialed, non-credentialed, qualified. Oops.
The would it work better to put qualified as qualified, credential, and non-credential to teach?
Or credentialed and qualified non-credentialed. Put the qualified in front of non-credentialed. I don't know. Qualified non-credentialed. Yeah. How's that?
My point I'm trying to make is that some
It's
of the
not
people they
from
put in
the-
front of you that are credentialed aren't qualified, but they do have all the letters behind their names, and they've been qualified by post, but they are light years behind what's happening in the community. And
Yeah,
they don't even know the language. They're afraid. They got decades old stereotypes that they still hold on to. And so I think qualified should go in front of both of them. Just because you got a master's degree in police community, what was that? Police administration doesn't mean you even care about what's happening in East Oakland, let alone know about what needs to happen.
Pastor Jackie is saying, for clarity, I was not able to see it.
That was earlier for the bullet.
Ah,
So that was earlier. That was her comment earlier. But we do have a comment from Miss Risa. She said, can it specifically say lived experience? And I'm not sure where she means that. Let me see if I can get her to unmute. If you'd like to. She can clarify.
Yes, thank you. I'm concerned because the word qualified often has meanings that don't address lived experience. And so I'm wondering if, because of the goal of this bullet item, if the words lived experience need to somehow be in here to share that that's part of what being qualified can mean.
so would it be non-credentialed instructors with lived experience?
I would recommend, Brother Reggie, what do you think about just dropping credentialed altogether and just say qualified and lived experience?
Qualified instructors with lived experience.
Yeah.
Well, I no, that,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
no, because
Could it
there,
be qualified, which could include lived experience?
no, I want people, I want them to be credentialed. I just want the folks with lived experience and do not have credentials to be on the same plane with them. But I do want qualified, credentialed people to be the instructor if you're in law enforcement. Otherwise, they'll put somebody up there that's, he's a great guy on the range, but he has no idea, about what we're talking about. But he's a great non-lethal arm instructor. And that's how we get in trouble. Am I making myself clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I used to speak better than I do nowadays, but I'm getting older, I guess.
I don't think you need that comma after the non-credentialed. Because we're saying non-credentialed with lived experience.
Yes.
Okay. Qualified instructors and non-credentialed with lived experience instructors. I can live with that. Yeah.
This is just my opinion. Good afternoon, everyone. The sentence or the phrase reads a bit clunky. I'm wondering, since it says trainers should be, can we take out instructors, period? Because we have already said that we are referencing trainers. And then the sentence could say qualified, credentialed, comma, non-credentialed, and those with lived experience, and leave it there.
Take out the and. Yeah, take
Deacon
that.
Lyles, when you read that, how does that seem to you? Because we've already identified we're talking about trainers.
Mm-hmm.
So trainers should be qualified, credentialed. You could even put or non-credentialed,
Or,
and
yeah.
those with lived experience
Yes.
from the department and or from the community to teach the subject matter.
Seem like an or should go after qualified credentials or non-credentialed.
Exactly.
Those with.
I think that reads just a bit smoother and still captures what you intend to capture.
Thank you.
Okay. Is this where we're landing? Qualified, credentialed, or non-credentialed, and those with lived experience from the department and or from the community to teach the subject matter.
Chair Peterson, did we make a decision about page 3, about that bullet?
Not
the
yet.
Condensed.
We skipped down to this, but we need to finalize that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know how this language started up. It was, we wanted to make sure, even if you had a lived experience, that, I don't know, we were trying to make sure we had a handle on how you screen, whether people are qualified, but it's getting a little bit testy now. I'm not sure.
Well, I think Reggie put it on, put the emphasis where it needed to be, and that is those that don't have college degrees but have lived experience.
That's why
OPD needs to hear from them. That's
correct.
exactly what needs to happen.
Correct. But is it or non-credentialed and those with lived experience, or they're non-credentialed with lived experience? Is that a difference without
Distinction.
a distinction? Yeah, a distinction without a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have both. They're
Yeah.
rare, but you can have credentialed with lived experience.
Or non-credentialed with lived experience.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'm not sure it's ours to determine the metric or define the terms for the purpose of this document. I think that's how we kind of got tangled
oh,
here
that's,
before.
yeah,
But if it captures in essence that you don't want those with lived experience excluded, then I think whatever the metric will be for credential, non-credential, I think that can be addressed at another time.
And the goal is to understand that the people who are put in front of a class in terms of their training, basic training and FTO training, that's who officers see as valuable. And if they never see a Black face or a Latino face or an Asian face, talking about anything that is troubling in the community in Oakland, then the assumption is that the instructor who may be from Butte County, Lake County, Shasta County, moved down here in their 20s, lives still in Shasta County. They're not the experts, but they do have a master's degree in police administration.
mhm,
And it has, and with the teaching has nothing to do with the current issues affecting Oakland or any other urban environment.
mhm.
You see that all the time.
I understand the context in which
Yeah.
we're trying to drop this bullet.
I'm kind of talking for the people who are this is being live, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly who I'm talking to. And I make no bones about it. The only way we're gonna change the culture is that we have to claim what we want changed. I
Yeah.
know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear that we would like our officers to not come to Oakland and be afraid of Oaklanders.
Yes.
And so they have to value them. And the only way you'll value one way is to put them in front of them at their training, at their developing stage.
Right. Does this capture what you
I
want?
think it's the best we can. We can move on. I think
Okay.
beat this enough. Thank you for your patience.
I think it's fine where it's at. I like the connection between this paragraph and the previous one. I think we should, my perspective, we just leave it.
I like it too.
I like it too. Thank you.
Hi, Gina.
Hello there.
Okay, if there's no further comment on this, then leave it like it is, Micah, Katina, and let's move on. I think we're moving on to are there other comments, substantive comments in the document that we spent a lot of time last time reviewing in total, and we were just waiting for a strong conclusion? Do you want to move to the conclusion, or are there other parts of the document that you want to look at again?
I just had a quick comment on page 7, in the middle of the page, middle of the paragraph in the middle of the page, says the department's 1-year sustainability period should include blah, blah, blah. Are we going with a 1 year or an 18-month, which is mentioned on number 8 on page 8?
That's a good catch.
And I definitely would say 18 months.
So page 7, is there something different?
Yeah. Page 7, middle of the page.
And do we need this yellow here? Have we done that?
Mr. Dorado, am I close? to where
Go
you-
up,
Yes,
go up a couple of, there you go.
Okay.
Micah,
Uh,
in the middle of that paragraph, it says
yeah,
the
the
the department's 1 year
year, correct.
sustainability period. Yes, so
Okay.
that should say 18 months.
Okay.
Well, it is now a 1 year, but we're recommending 18 months, isn't that it?
Yes.
I think so.
So I don't know if we want to say 18 months, but
I think there we can just say the department's sustainability period. Don't give it a
yeah, because the recommendation for 18 months is below.
Yeah, that'll work. That's
Okay,
the only thing I had.
okay, thank you. Are there other? Okay, Angela, you're smiling. What's up? Do you have anything more you want to add?
Oh, no, that was actually one of my questions for our conclusion was how long was this proposed sustainability period? So I just updated that, so.
All right, very good.
Thank you. I will delete that comment now.
Okay. So are we ready to move on to the conclusion?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
okay.
Yes.
And Angela, can you take us through it? And can you make this, thank you, bigger?
I am not sharing my screen.
Put up, Angela.
That's yours, Micah.
Oh, you have a new one?
I can do it if you'd like me to. I don't have any
Okay,
problem.
no problem. I'll stop
Give
sharing.
you a break. And actually, Mr. Contreras did the heavy lift of getting us started by putting pen to paper, so to speak. Can you all see my screen? So I'll let him walk you through his thoughts, and then maybe we can all take a minute to read it, and then we can go from there.
Okay, you have to make it bigger.
Okay.
Much better, thank you. Is that good
No.
for everybody?
Yes.
So as you read this, the thought was that, to make a conclusion or a closing argument, you want to highlight some of the things that you had already presented. Tell a story, raise some questions. And so I figured that, we can go through the two questions that we always asked ourselves as we were going through that. And that's the two questions below the first paragraph. And then at the end, the lettered points is why we feel that we're not ready. So that's the whole idea for this. Short and sweet. I like things simple. Make your point. We don't need to beat something. So you guys can read it, unless you want me to read it.
Well, we have people who
Okay.
are maybe just phoning in, so it would be helpful if it was read. Go ahead.
No, they're fair. In conclusion, in January of 2024, the court requested negotiated settlement agreement. Stakeholders evaluate the current and future role of federal court oversight in Oakland. After much consideration, the commission developed a statement guided by two overarching questions. One, has the Oakland Police Department achieved the NSA task compliance for a sustained period of time? And two, has the OPD demonstrated the ability and desire to systematically and structurally make the culture changes necessary to hold itself accountable? Because our answers to the two above questions are or were a unanimous no, and for the following reasons, this body recommends that the Oakland Police Department enter a new and restructured 18-month sustainability period. A, the absence of a clear and defined assessment metric. B, the absence of an ascertainable period of sustainability. C, the absence of a fully seated police commission supported by a complete staff. D, a vacant permanent inspector general position. And E, the continued and troubling misconduct investigations along with a new chief of police. In the 21 years of the NSA's existence, there has not been a defined compliance metric or systemic measurement to assure sustainability. Requirements for task completion seem undemanding and lack a program for lasting practice. Misconduct investigations continue to surface, and task compliance takes a step backwards. The last two paragraphs I had in a different area, and I think that Commissioner Jackson Castaigne put them down on the bottom. We just kind of have to make the connection a little bit clearer. I like where they are. So that's the closing, folks.
Okay, I have a question. It says, because our answers to the two above questions are unanimous no, and for the following reasons, this body recommends that the OPD enter a new and structured 18-month sustainability period. I think I would like it to read, because our answers to the two above questions are unanimous no, comma, for the following reasons.
Yeah, there should be a comma there.
Yeah, no, but it's not so much a comma there, but comma, but yes, a comma there.
You need to have the ABCs before above, right? They kind of
Yeah, they need to be, they need to be after somehow, and not the and, but for the following reason, this body recommends that OPD enter into a structured 18. Well, these are our reasons, right, for saying no.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I'd like the A, B, C, D, E right after we say reasons, but that has to be massaged a little bit too. And then below we would say, therefore, this body recommends that OPD enter a new and structured 18-month sustainability period. That would come after the E in its own, back to the beginning of the paragraph.
Chair Peterson, Pastor Jackie had a comment in the chat.
Okay.
I was thinking you could leave it the way it is, minus whatever grammatical notes have been made. If you move the misconduct sentence to the paragraph that is before it, and then close the conclusion with something that says, it is our hope that during this period, so that you can end your statement, one, on a note of hope. That is the preacher in me. We always leave the people with a glimmer of hope. Of what you hope will be accomplished or what will be worked on during that 18 months. I know, Brother Mariano, we had conversations about the monitor's role and their responsibility, what should be changed or tweaked there. So if there was something that could surmise what's the expectation during the 18 months that would be any different than what has occurred now. To line that out. So that you're saying, we say no, we're not ready. These are the concerns that we have around readiness. We think another 18 months is required. Here's what we hope will happen in that 18 months.
Right. I think I want to invite Commissioner Jackson Castaigne, because she has some questions and some comments on this.
Well, first I wanted to make sure that we all agreed on the two questions in the beginning, because I think that sort of sets the framework, and this really does encompass what we tried to address. I noted that the questions are different than what the court asked us to do, so I added just like a sentence to make sure that that was clear. And then I was just thinking too that these bullets might, if we're trying to align them to the way the document is written, then we might need to shuffle them around and make them a little bit more clear, because the assessment metrics is really important, and I do remember it in there, but it's not like spelled out as its own section. Like if we go back to, I think, page 1 or 2 of our document, it's not, if we're trying to outline this so that it parallels the document, then we might need to just flesh out the bullets a little bit more.
Commissioner, wasn't it noted during the section right before this under the sustainability piece? That's where I remember the metric piece, if memory maybe serving me.
Yeah, it is
wrong.
part of the sustainability piece. So A and B essentially are part of the same section. B would essentially encompass A, no? So maybe first, are we good on the questions?
Well, my concern is that, what about the other 3 questions the court asked, whether the monitor stays the same, there's an adjustment, or the monitor goes away, basically, and I'm paraphrasing it.
Right, and so I think this sentence here was intended to reference those questions, evaluate the current and future role of the oversight. But then when we thought about it, these are kind of the 2 overarching questions that informed our approach.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was referencing, not the questions that the court asked.
Right.
It was because I remember throughout all our meetings, we were always asking sustainability. We talked about that. We talked about the period, can the department, do they have the desire, the ability, to make those changes, those culture changes? So I thought that those were the 2 overarching kind of questions that we were grappling with as we were in our meetings, not that those were the questions that the court asked.
Right.
But why are we not listing like just a 3rd one that just says, and specifically whether the monitor should stay, leave, or be adjusted? As
We can, sure. That's because that's our ultimate.
And while it all has to do with federal court oversight, we're really talking about the questions. More specifically, the judge did outline those 3 issues related to the monitor.
So I like the fact that that you're going to address very directly what did the judge ask us, and then have very simplistic answers that maybe have a little narrative to support it.
So then we're adding in the question of the monitor.
Yeah, specifically that, those 3 questions. And of course, we addressed 2 and 3 in the memo, but we also addressed, the monitor, the specific monitor question.
Is that captured, or do we need something else? So much later the court asked.
Well, make sure I say it, I guess, the way he said it.
as that's taking place, I just want to make a comment on one of Commissioner Jackson Castane's comments. She commented that this read as if the NSA was not necessary or working, and I don't want it to read that way because, but it is not. Oh no, she said that it's not necessary. What I think the impression that we want to relate is that it's not effective. It needs to be rebuilt. The assessment metrics needs to be looked at. The sustainability period. How we check off tasks. Those all need to be reworked. So it's not that the NSA is ineffective. The system of the monitor needs to be brought in, and he needs to have a buy-in into what the goal of the NSA is. So that's if we can work on that to make it clear, because I certainly don't want to put make the impression that the NSA is not necessary or completely ineffective, because as Brother Reggie says, if it wasn't for the NSA, we wouldn't be where we are now. We'd be back in 2003.
In fact, it's not working because the department has dug their heels in and refused to cooperate. That's the language we have to use. It's got to be just like that. We got to place responsibility and accountability where it is. This is Judge Oreck's opinion. It was the judge before him's opinion.
Yeah.
So we can't be involved in this and then sing a different song. It has nothing to do with the monitor or the NSA. NSA, as far as I'm concerned, it's quite clear what they need to improve. She said they don't want to improve it, and we don't like to say it because somehow that means you hate police officers or we're afraid of policemen or something like that.
But to your point, Reggie, excuse me, Deacon Lyles, the monitor is not being effective, really, particularly in the chief compliance officer role. And that's part of what is not allowing a sustainable metric. He has no data points. He just has scandals, which are important, but he's not trying to provide technical assistance so that OPD can get better.
Well, it really is not his responsibility to make the OPD better. The responsibility.
Well, he is supposed.
No, he's to monitor the NSA to determine if they've met the compliance and the goal of each item. The job.
Yes, but he sits in the chief compliance role.
The job to make OPD better lives with the chief and the staff. That's their job.
But he, in his chief compliance piece, is supposed to provide technical assistance. He's not providing that. That can help design or support or encourage new systems or anything. He's not doing that.
That's because they've dug their heels in and they reject everything, or they slow walk everything, or they don't do it, or they ignore it. I mean, these are the facts after 22 years. These are the facts. You have to want to change and then do the change.
I don't disagree that historically they have not been interested at all. But I do feel like in the last 4 or 5 years that there has been a focus on it. As a matter of fact, there was a department, at least when Chief Armstrong was in charge, he had a group of people dedicated just to the NSA. Now, one of the other challenges is that as soon as the chief changes, then all the things that the prior chief was doing, they just like disappear. And so it's almost like you got to restart anyway. But
okay, let me be clear, because I'm unmovable on this.
Okay.
You'll have a leadership group, chiefs and a couple of deputy chiefs, etc., that meet with community members and elected officials, and they say exactly what needs to be said. But there's no penetration. The department is actually run by lieutenants and sergeants. And there's no penetration there. There's no change of belief. And while you have one training that we know about, the official training and post-training, then you have the unofficial training that goes on simultaneously at choir practices, at so-and-so's house, at so-and-so's bar, at, on the corner. And that's the nature of law enforcement. This is not me digging up new ground. They've got libraries full of books that speaks to this. It's a recalcitrance. It's unheard of. Oakland is the only department in these United States that have stood up against an NSA for 22 years and not changed. And they take bows for that. They're not ashamed of it.
Right. So what I hear you saying, Brother Reggie, is that, we need to mention OPD as being one of the reasons why we're still under the NSA, because, it's not the monitor who is responsible for the misconduct investigations that keep resurfacing. They're not involved in that. It's because of the culture that exists within the police department. So we need to say that. I hear what you're saying. We need to include that in there.
Could somebody? I'm blanking on his name. The judge that was over before Oric took over it.
Felton Henderson.
Felton Henderson.
Yeah.
Felton Henderson wrote documents. They didn't even talk to me for 5 years. Those are facts. Read all of it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even respond to him for 5 years. This is where the problem is. And
Yes, I think
so close to the problem, maybe we don't see the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Deacon Lyles that we have to put the onus on the Oakland Police Department. If we put the onus on anyone else, it makes it unlikely that the changes and the focus is developed. And it's important for us to do that. I'm not sure where we are. I think the chair was reviewing something.
I was looking for the way the judge had posed the 3 questions, but we've captured it here. Is it
Okay.
appropriate to end the monitorship, change its form, or maintain the status quo?
And we say no to that categorically. I wasn't sure that we had gotten to that. We hadn't gotten
No.
in the
So we
discussion.
can't say what we have here where it says, because our answers to the above questions are unanimous, no. I think we have to say, having grappled with these questions, we offer the following as, are these the reasons why we're giving the no, or are we saying we acknowledge that, or we're acknowledging that there's an absence of this, there's an absence of that, there's an absence of this other. We have a vacant position here in the IG office, and we have a new police chief. Let's don't forget that. Well, having grappled with these questions, we offer the following reasons that we recommend that OPD enter a new and structured 18-month sustainability period.
So I think
Something is awkward about this. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, kind of back to Pastor Jackie's point, I don't see her anymore. Maybe
She's
she's
on.
had
There's
to
an
pop off.
event at the church tonight.
Okay, that maybe if we could reframe it and close it out on a more positive note. I know we're writing out all of the reasons, summarizing the reasons that we think that we cannot exit the NSA currently, which is a summary of everything that we've written. So my alternative language would be like saying that this body recommends that we enter a new restructured sustainability period focused on, and then the 5 areas that we had outlined before.
And so it's not the absence of the need for a clear and defined assessment made, the need for ascertainment.
Yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
Also,
So is this, well, I can plot this in here. Does this work? So it's like we can't say yes to these questions now, but if we enter this sustainability period focused on these 5 elements, then we have a fighting chance.
yeah.
So I'm
I
just gonna
think
move this down for now and see how it feels, and then we can add it back.
Here, the answer to your question is in the chat.
I think that
Okay, thank you, Katina.
the lowercase e
Walter, you went in and out.
okay. No, I was waiting to see that we're at the right
Oh.
place on the having grappled in the paragraph there, the lowercase e, the continued and troubling misconduct investigations is one item, and the fact of a new police chief should be a separate one. I don't see that. Those
Yeah, that needs to be an F.
need to be separated. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we need to decide for this, are we following the structure that's outlined in our current memo? Or are we writing just a list of things that need to be fixed?
I think that if we have posed the 3 questions, which aren't on the screen right now, but just above here, and we want to say, yeah, I like having grappled with these questions. We offer the following, and I think it's not the absence of, but the need. We offer the following: the need for a clear and defined assessment matrix, the need of an ascertainable period of sustainability, the need for a fully seated police commission.
Yeah, that's better.
A need to fill the vacancy in the vacant, the need to fill a permanent, however we want to say about the inspector general position. The need to somehow address and cure the troubling misconduct investigations. And then the need to assess the proficiency of the new chief of police. Assess. Yeah, address, yes. And a need to assess.
And maybe the need to allow for the
yeah, I mean, there's a soft way.
accommodation of the acclamation of the new police chief.
Yeah, need to assess the acclamation.
I think we need to say also clearly, though, that we do not, in answering the court's question, we do not want to end the federal oversight nor discontinue the monitoring.
Right.
So, but revising it is maybe one of the possibilities. But
We brought that up to the mayor, Walter, in our
yeah.
that we felt that there should be, and I think we've discussed this, a need to restructure the pay rate. Well, how did you put it, Mariano, in the meeting?
Restructure the monitor's fee in to restructure in the lower of Jesus, you know.
Lower rate of pay, I think you said.
Yeah.
Compensation, restructure the compensation.
Yes, for a lower fee, for them to lower the fee.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because his dual role. That was, yeah, we have to give a reason to why we think it should be restructured.
Right, but that's in the body of
that's in the body.
Yeah,
okay.
But you're right, Chair Peterson. We need to include that, which will strengthen our ask for the monitor to lower their fee, because essentially they're getting two checks for one entity, one office, and so yeah, but we'll rework that in the body.
So we're going to delete, if I'm not mistaken, everyone, because our answers to the above are unanimous. We're going to delete, and then all this. Yeah. We didn't talk about
all of this.
Well, we need to strengthen the IG and CIPRA capacity. Certainly, that should be up there in our list.
If we eliminate the first question, and start with this body recommends, we might be able to see what we're doing a little bit better of that question.
Say that part again.
Eliminate because of our answers up to the
yeah,
up to for the following reasons, and start with this body recommends, and maybe we could see what we're doing.
At that, having grappled with these questions, this body recommends that OPD enter new and structured 18. Wait a minute. So where does this sentence go now, Walter?
Maybe it goes up after having grappled. This body recommends the following. Wait a minute. No.
Yeah.
These are two different lists.
Yeah, they are.
So we need to decide if we keep two, make it one, or just, yeah, because I think they're two totally different things.
Well, having grappled with
having grappled with those questions
in our above stated addendum, having grappled with these questions in the above stated addendum, this body recommends that OPD entered a new and structured 18-month sustainability period focused on, see, if we're going to put it all on OPD, they don't have anything to do with some of the things we've listed A through F. We need to reconcile.
Then perhaps, yeah.
So isn't it clear or implied that we don't need to say focused on? I mean, we for the reasons that A, B, A through F, right? Or do we need to say that explicitly?
Well, some of the things we can't put OPD enter into a new structure as part of this having grappled with.
Right.
So we need to decide if having grappled with these questions, we offer the following needs, A through F, finally, this body recommends that OPD enter and for these reasons,
Mhm.
this body recommends that OPD enter a new and structured 18-month sustainability focused on well, see, these aren't all their problems. Strengthening OPC, IG, and CIPRA capacity should be another a G, if you will, up in the A through F. You know what I'm saying? Because strengthening OPC, IG, and CIPRA capacity is not on OPD.
Yeah, the
Right.
bulleted list was intended to follow the bullets that we outlined in our.
Okay, so why don't we do this?
So,
Why don't we make was the need for fully seated police commission, IG, and CIPRA, all supported by a complete staff, and that would be all part of C. Take it out of here with these bullets. Take it out of there. And then OPD focus on stabilizing leadership, improving stakeholder communication, addressing cultural issues, implementing recommendations for sustainability. I mean, that's a whole bullet list that we are saying OPD needs to focus on.
Instead
yeah,
of,
those are our A through E or whatever sections we have.
Yeah, how do you,
So I don't know that these like go together that way.
yeah. We're trying to address, and with the bullet points, we're trying to address those needs. What we're not addressing in the bullet points is E, the need to address continued and troubling misconduct investigations. We have to address that.
Well, that should go down with the bullets that have to do with OPD, shouldn't it?
Is that what those bullets are? Only addressing?
No, those bullets are the sections that we, maybe if you pull up, Mike, if you have the original document and pull that up real quick. So you know how we have A, renewed leadership. It's on the first page. It should be the same bullets as like the first page of the memo. So that's, I only wrote them to parallel what the structure of the memo was. And it's not the same list as what we're creating here.
I see.
So the bullets and so I think it's kind of confusing. First of all, our A through F here does not correspond with our A through E on in the actual
see what
memo.
you're doing.
So
Now
these
I
should
understand.
probably be bullets, so this wouldn't be really confusing to someone. But
Okay.
this, in other words, is probably like the A through.
Well,
Do you understand?
can we move having grappled with these questions?
I don't think we need both lists, honestly.
No, I'm just saying, put that up in the body, at the very end of the body and the conclusion. Because this is more like maybe what we talk. I don't know. I'm getting myself bogged down now.
Chair Jackson, which part did you want pulled up? You want the original document pulled up?
The first page of the memo.
Okay.
As part of the introduction.
Okay.
Down to our bullets. So yeah, strengthening incoming OPD. So the bullets that we outlined here are supposed to parallel that.
I see what you're doing.
You know what I mean? Which is also the outline or the framework that we're using for the entire memo. So I think going back to this, we don't have to repeat the same
Right.
items. I think I like where Mariano's going and pulling out and highlighting a lot of important parts that could be buried in some of these sections, or they're within a header that says stabilizing incoming leadership, or they're within the header of cultural change, but we're not calling out the misconduct investigations explicitly. So I feel like we don't need this second bulleted aspect. I'll go back to sharing my screen. Thank you, Micah.
Sure.
I agree with that.
I don't think that we actually need this if we want to be more explicit here. And to me, this is more specific, more detailed, and it calls out things that could actually be buried in some of our sections that
Yeah.
are under these headers.
I
Does
agree.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we can delete this and go
Wait a
with
minute.
the
Hold on.
specificity route.
Right
No?
before you delete it, have we captured it above? Having grappled with these questions, we offer the following. The need for clear, defined assessment, the need for an ascertainable period of sustainability, the need for a fully seated police commission, IG, and CIPRA, all supported by a complete staff, the need to fill a permanent vacancy in the IG office, the need to address continued and troubling misconduct investigations, the need to assess the acclamation of a new chief of police,
Of the new police.
of the new chief of the instead of
Mhm.
And for these reasons, this body recommends and then add sustainability period.
of 18, a new, yeah, and that could be the end of it.
Right. At before focus, just put a period there.
Yeah,
After period.
after, yeah, yeah.
And then
Um,
that last two paragraphs, we can. They were
So-
meant to enforce some statements, but that can also be eliminated, maybe.
Well, I think it brought up a thought for me because I know that I'm new to this ad hoc, but it's something that I kind of grappled with as well, which is like, why are we saying that we want to stay in this negotiated settlement agreement if it's not really effective or hasn't really been effective?
Well, we're not
And
saying that it hasn't been, I don't think that's our position, that it hasn't.
That's not, that
no,
can't.
not that it has, okay, so that we don't have any defined compliance metrics or so it's like we can't even measure whether or not we're hitting the mark, so to speak.
Well,
Because
we got as close as only having 2 tasks left.
okay.
Right, but I think the whole point on this is that it's a weak metric. It's a weak checkoff. And so if it wasn't weak, then the police department would be implementing this on a daily basis. There would be discipline, dispatch. There would be internal investigations where they're investigating the misconduct and not trying to hide it. I'm sorry. I just, that's what this is referring to. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think, and for these reasons, this body recommends that the OPD enter a new and restructured 18-month sustainability period with a period, back up. And then this sentence, it is our hope that a new and restructured 18-month sustainability period will, and that's the sentence we need to complete, will result in what? Will result.
Well, before we say it'll result, it will include this compliance and system. Should it
But we
include?
had the need for a clear and defined assessment.
Oh, we do. You're right.
Already. So we're hoping the new restructuring period will result in we want to say it'll be a handoff that will stick. It's like a stick the landing, like you do in the
Well, yeah. What do
Somebody's
you
been
want?
watching
What do you
gymnastics.
what do you want from them? What I would want from them is a transparency when there's some wrongdoing, that they don't, try to, for lack of a better phrase, cover up. This is Judge Oreck's comment, that they will affect it, that they would mete out effective discipline for those who are responsible for wrongdoing, that they will report truthfully. These are the things that made us end up being here 22 years.
Okay.
Because at the end, as they met the metrics, so many meetings with the community, so many community meetings and assessments and discussions and trying to do better. And then one guy does something horrific, and then everybody covers it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's discovered, and then, hey, you guys haven't met the NSA agreement.
Yeah.
Right. It looks like more of the same cover-up scandal, no culture shift,
Exactly. And
no accountability.
if it was just officers, that would lead me to believe that, they may have the flu, but they don't have COVID. But this
Correct.
is lieutenants, captains, and chiefs and deputy chiefs. So this is very, very bad.
Did we put in the document that have we confirmed that we have the longest NSA in the history of the state of California or in the history of the country? Because if that is, okay, then we need to write that down. I don't know that I maybe I missed that, but it's like a substantiation. There's a reason that we have been in this situation for 21 years, and it is because the department is resistant. Even though the last few years there have been, significant strides, there's still something wrong, rotting at the core, so to speak.
And whatever it is, outweighs all that we want to do in terms of being right. The NSA, the monitor, the chiefs, the oversight committee, whatever that is causing them, hey man, we got to hide this.
Yep.
It's greater than what we have out here.
Commissioner,
it's greater than what we're doing.
Commissioner Regina Jackson, why do you think that's important to mention the long running NSA?
One, because it substantiates and justifies that OPD has not taken this seriously. Now, I do believe that there has been a focus on working toward, as Deacon Lyle says, kind of box checking and getting this place and that in place. But truth be told, as soon as something negative happens, the first move is to cover up. And that means it's the culture that is most problematic. And I think it's unfortunate, but it's also the truth. And in our spirit of accountability and transparency, perhaps everybody needs to be reminded that this is a major black eye for OPD. And this is, and this is where it's been met out. I mean, we are the example of wrongdoing. I just think it's important to say this didn't happen accidentally. People have been, I don't want to say that folks are legitimately working towards not dealing with this, but although we do some fixes, short term, they don't seem to stick once another problem pops up. They just go back to the way they always used to do it. So, I'm not sure how we say it, but we have to acknowledge that the wrongdoings, the commission has only been in place 6.5 years. And that's when primarily we've seen the most traction toward improvement, probably really more like the last 4 years. But we're not nearby close to a longevity and sustainability because, like any child, if the first time they get caught, they lie, then the second time they get caught, they lie. That just becomes part of who their character is. And unless parents or whatever demand that there's an understanding of why they continue to lie because they don't feel safe or whatever. And maybe OPD doesn't feel safe, but the problem is it's the community would lift them up if we thought that accountability and transparency was a real priority as opposed to kind of a box checking. Yeah, we do better, we do more, but it's still not enough.
Right.
So Mariana, if you disagree with me, I am happy to
No, I was
step
just,
aside, but I think it's a
no,
substantive.
it
Yeah.
really, I really wanted to know why you thought that was important, you know, because I'm always thinking, you know, we have the longest running, you know, consent decree, negotiated settlement agreement in the country, but we also, on the flip side, we also have the strongest and most independent police commission, you know.
Then
And
let's say both, Mariano.
well,
We
no,
could
no,
say
no,
both because
no, well, not just to say it, but I'm hoping maybe we can say that in the last 7 years that, you know,
yes,
that's the hope
yes,
that with a
yes.
strong and independent police commission, that the hope is that now we can finally, you know, get to you know, to get into a sustainability period that will, you know, meet a sustained compliance of the 52 tasks.
You know,
I think,
we,
yeah, I agree.
we have the I would say most effective and the strongest oversight committee by, you know, by law to Measure L, Measure LL, overwhelmingly supported. And it's because it's needed. It's because they have forced their way into this position. They have by doing what? By not responding, by hearing you and then not doing what you ask them to do.
I think that's right. I think we have to say that. The other thing that's an aspect of it, well, that shows some of the resources we have. Judge Ethel Henderson was one of the most critical thinking judges around these issues in the country and in the history of the U.S. on these issues, and was prepared to present his entire compassion, weight, and understanding into making this work, and was resisted by this department. I think it's important for us to acknowledge that. And if we know Judge Henderson, we would know that this is one of the reasons that he didn't give up on Oakland after 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. He maintained that approach and left in place the system of court oversight that Judge Orrick has inherited. And maybe Judge Orrick was want to get rid of it because he's not a Thelton Henderson, even though they were good friends. But there's a difference, and I think we should acknowledge that. As a Black judge, as a judge who had so much concern for the communities that he came from, having been involved, you know, in the civil rights era as a state attorney, Henderson was very much on our side in trying to build our team and our approach and our values in this approach. And that value has been rejected by chief after chief, department after department head in Oakland, and in many instances by Oakland administration, Oakland government. And he said so much. And I know him. He was my law school instructor, and we maintained relationship over so many years. And I think it's important to note that no other place has there been such a judge.
Yeah.
And we may never have one.
Should we put that here or at the end of our discussion? In other words, not in the conclusion, but above, before we write our conclusion.
Maybe the points that Commissioner Regina made, and these things might go into in an introduction, just a short introduction, just to say who we are, because we haven't as a commission made a full statement before, and this would be something that's going to go down in the archives.
Yeah.
And it would be important to just note those things from our introduction. This is where we
I
are.
appreciate that, Mr. Riley. Does it then also make sense to reference the fact that the first 5 years under Judge Felton Henderson, that there was no communication even, because that's news to me. And I've been on the commission for 6.5 years. So
Well,
it may be that, go ahead.
it's in the case. You can read it for
Yeah.
yourself. We can quote it.
No, look, I believe it. I'm just saying that for people who are following this now, you know, showing the blatant disregard over the long haul. Now, granted, in the last six years, we have made extraordinary strides. They have made strides with the benefit of, you know, federal oversight. I'm just wondering if we should be, saying that, so that people who haven't read and people who may or may not have, hell, I may have forgotten, I don't know. But it jumped out to me just now.
Well,
Okay, so if we,
let me say this before because I have to go. Listen, we're talking culture change.
Mm-hmm.
And they fall back on, when you say they fall back to their behavior, they fall back to culture. So there has been no change. And so you could put a sustainability period in all of that together, and it would be a miracle if they decide to adhere to it. The only thing that has kept OPD from acting like OBT has acted, that was in the book, Writers Come Out at Night, has been the NSA agreement. That's the only thing. And the only, then they say, oh, it's the chief's fault, or it's the monitor's fault, or it's some individual group fault, or some elected official fault. No, it's the department's culture. And we have to talk like that and use that language and point that focus on that. That's what I want changed.
Yeah.
You know, whoever's the chief, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
You know, I just want that culture to change.
Yeah.
well, tone at the top is important, but where do we want to put this? Are we putting it in our open paragraph, this discussion about we've been here all these years, there has been no real change?
I think it goes in the intro. I like that idea.
Yeah. It doesn't go here in our conclusion.
No.
Right.
So maybe if we can make a note to add some language in the intro around that.
Okay, we're coming around the bend with this, guys.
We just need to do this sentence.
No, this is good. I think that can result in increase, and I don't know, increase, but conclude, stronger word than increase. It's going to result in demonstrative.
Let me tell you, when I'm reading this sentence here that we're working on now, what I think about is, you know, these misconduct investigations that seem to surface or pop up, you know, it's not stuff that happened 10, 15 years ago. It's stuff that happened 1, 2, 3 years ago, you know, so, and they pop up because they got caught. And I'm thinking, so this sentence makes me think that we need to state this somehow, is what misconduct is taking place now, right now, today, as we're meeting here, what is going to surface tomorrow, you know, and that's, I think, what we need to address as true culture change. What is OPD trying to cover up now, right now, today, you know, so.
On trend.
Well, that already happened. They try to cover that up, you know. That's the latest
was a
one.
couple of
There's
years
something
ago.
brewing right now that's going to come up tomorrow or next week. And unless we, you know, we put into place, you know, a system where the culture is going to be changed, where, you know, you don't cover up, you don't, you know, tell untruths, where, you know, you are transparent. So that's, I think, what this sentence here should relate.
We want it, I looked up the word, honestly, solid, because, when I say solid stick, like a gymnastic in the end of the routine, It should be firm. It should be stable transparency. It shouldn't go like this, or it shouldn't be because we checked the box, but it should be what it is now.
Hmm.
And you can only judge that by at least an 18-month sustainability period. It has to be hard.
Yeah. That's a good
Solid,
word.
concrete.
Why don't we use a couple of words from Judge Orick, where he talks about the foundations of constitutional policing. So maybe a phrase of strengthening the foundations of constitutional policing can go there, result in culture change that values those things.
We want it to be not ing, but it is not. They aren't still transitioning to or strengthening it. It is proven in proven cultural change. Not a proven, but just proven. Rock solid and proven. And I know that's too vernacular, but
Maybe a word would be success, or I'm looking up words, or you don't want to use efficacious because that's too.
Because I don't know what that means.
what's one of $1,000 words?
But
Let's stick to like 3 or 4 syllables.
Yes.
productive, effective. I mean, those are accountability is
With
not
the
enough.
strong civilian oversight of the police commission, this new restructured sustainability period will result in proven culture change that
Establishes.
establishes transparency, promotes truthfulness, and holds everyone accountable.
Kind of almost there.
Culture change every sex that reflects a value system.
Yeah, I was going with values initially.
Okay.
Pastor Jackie would come with the punchline right here.
How about if we don't mention, let's see, so it is our hope that with this strong civilian oversight of the police commission, this new period will result in sustained culture change, or yeah, I just don't think we needed to mention sustainability period again.
I don't like sustained again, though.
Okay, well,
But
that's why I took it out the second time.
let's see, that's all right. We're still searching for the right word.
Yeah.
There is a word.
Verified?
I'm thinking effectiveness. Effective is useful here.
Lasting culture change.
Lasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
That blank, 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 transparency,
That
truthfulness, accountability.
establishes.
Demonstrates.
Thank you, attorney in the room.
How about permanent instead of lasting?
Yeah.
Even better. That's the other
That's the word.
attorney in the room. That's the other
That was
attorney in
the
the
word.
room.
Yes. Permanent culture change. Demonstration promotes truthfulness.
And what
Accountability.
accountability?
About accountability without fear or favor. Again, using Oric's words.
We have to use demonstrates or promotes.
Yeah, the accountability without what was it, Jose?
Fear or favor.
And the judge said that.
The judge said that.
Give him back.
Favor, VOR.
Oh.
How about instead of change that demonstrates transparency, change that either owns or welcomes, or, you know, make it an ownership.
Establishes.
Establishes transparency.
Okay, let's see.
I like establishes because it feels like you're institutionalizing it, so that gives it connotates more permanency.
Okay.
Or you could just say institutionalize, but that's a little bit much.
That's the ultimate goal, Commissioner.
Yeah. So it is our hope that with the strong civilian oversight of the Police Commission, this new period will result in permanent culture change that establishes transparency, promotes truthfulness, and accountability without fear or failure. Favor. Sorry, I don't know why I keep thinking favor. How does that sound?
I like that, and it ends on a positive note.
It does, and it gives a little like fervor to with the fear and favor part.
And so we just need to go up to the first paragraph and incorporate the things that Reggie and Regina were suggesting with respect to the history, and
Okay.
Walter was saying as well.
So I'm deleting this part.
Yes.
Okay. Micah and Katina, do you have access to this? Do you want to plop it into the main document, copy and paste?
You can, oh, that's right. It's going to be updated in real time, right? So
It is already there.
Okay, Katina, I don't know if you have this document. I'm going to send it to you now though, because I have access to this live document.
I do. You sent
Or
it
you
to
can
me,
just copy and paste
but
your
for
email
some
in
reason I'm not seeing the changes. So if you can.
Well, I just took a picture of it. I just would hate to lose any of this.
If you want to put your email in the chat, I can just send it to you real quick. Let me copy and paste. Here we go. Are we happy with this?
I think, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, a couple more tweaks, but we are definitely on our way. And your suggestions, Angela, particularly around grammar and all, very helpful because I don't have that skill.
Well, Mr. Contreras was the one that actually wrote this, so he did the heavy lifting, getting us started. Always the hard part.
Excuse my comment, Mariano. I would never want to take any take you for granted in any way, shape, or form.
I'm not, I'm fine with it all. Thank you.
We need to fix the need to fill a permanent vacancy inspector general position. A permanently vacant, I'm sorry, we need to fill the inspector general position with a permanent it just has to be reworded.
It's a permanent position.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a acting right now, right? Interim.
He's interim. Mhm.
Yeah.
On a permanent basis, something like that.
Okay.
Do we want to say anything about the fact that we are currently
It's in the body.
working on it? Okay, all right. Thanks.
I think it looks good.
Have you folks, I'm sure we all have read the monitor reports, the recommendations. The way I read them is I read the first couple paragraphs and I go to the conclusion, to the recommendations. So if I do the same with this document and I go to the conclusion, I get a full picture of the statement. Don't you?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Good strategy. Good litmus test. Okay.
Yeah, I'll read it that way from now on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't be lazy like me. I'm just a lazy reader, that's all.
Looks good.
All right.
Oh, and while we amend the first paragraph, I'm going to fill you all in on our meeting with the mayor. And thank you again, Walter, for making that happen. It was Brooklyn and the mayor, and it was Mariano, Commissioner Jackson, Pastor Jackie, and myself. We met with her for about 40 minutes. She was late in coming on or in with us. She took copious notes, and so did Brooklyn, and advised us that she didn't know the city's position and said something very illuminating about her relationship with the Office of the City Attorney, that sometimes they represent her, and sometimes they, because it's an elected position, they represent the people. So she said she didn't know what their position was going to be. But at the end of the day, she thought it would be helpful to have that sit down meeting, which she hasn't had with them. They haven't briefed her, to see where we do agree, like a Venn diagram, and see where we can say we agree rather than us all stumbling into the CMC with different perspectives. She said kind of coquettish, in a coquettish way, well, if you show me, can you share your statement with me? And Regina said, I'll share mine if you share yours. So they don't have anything yet. And lo and behold, I think it was yesterday, Bridget Martin came out with about 10 different days and times that we could have the first meeting. In fact, there were so many dates, I thought it was ineffective because give people 3 days, don't give them 16, and you have 20 people that you're trying to include in a meeting.
So Marcia, what do you think her intention was, her strategy was in giving us too many options, that we're not going anywhere?
It's not going to happen with enough of a group of people, because she wants 2 virtuals and then she wants an in-person. And these dates, Katina, do you have them available, or Micah? I mean, they're starting, are they starting next week? I can't remember.
Is it like a doodle poll where people
It's
are
not
like,
even a doodle poll, it's an email.
oh, yeah. Because then
Just-
people could say like definitely available, not available.
Right, you know.
Yeah, I have the
When does
email
it
pulled up
start?
if you want to see the
Can,
dates.
can you show it to, can you show it?
There we go.
So here's my thought. Why not have Micah transition it into a doodle poll and have all of the appropriate people on there? Or maybe, next week only, that we only identify those 3 in order to try and, I don't know, kind of force some engagement quickly.
Well, council's going to be on with, us. And the only day that Katina and I overlapped was, I think, the 16th, or was it the 9th? I don't know. But the addressees, can you show how many people? I mean, look at this. This is a
Oh
lot.
my goodness.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, and you've given all these dates. We'll never. This is why this process needed to start earlier rather than later.
When is it due again?
This is where we would have found ourselves if we had waited.
I believe Bridget Martin wants to file on, well, she wanted us to get our addendum no later than August 21st. I believe it's due on the 28th. And the CMC statement, the CMC itself occurs on September 4th.
So does it make any sense for us to reach out to the rest of the people and say that the commission is available, or the NSA ad hoc is available on these days next week? And let's get started that way. And then if, Jim and John are on that list or what have you, try and corral everybody to, kind of force a meeting, because when she gives you the sky and the moon, it means she don't want you.
Well, Regina, we kind of took this tack at the beginning that we knew they didn't want us.
Right.
But we were still going to draft a statement that reflected our perspective of where
Exactly.
this is. So
Exactly.
I'm
I
not
think the
sure
point-
anything that they would say at this point would be persuasive. I mean, I don't know that she has written anything.
My only point about that is that now she, quote unquote, is offering time. And what I wouldn't want to do is look like we're reluctant to meet or not willing to. That's all.
No, I gave her my date.
Okay,
I
thanks.
gave her the dates. I mean, I'm just saying, this is an impossible thing to pull together. And maybe I'm mistaken. I'm not trying to be resistant, but I just think that it is an unusual way to have approached it. Walter, you were going to say something?
Well, I guess a couple of questions. Who's going to meet with her? Looking at that list, perhaps not all those people there, because she has a list of a number of people from the city attorney's office. I don't know that all those people are on this. And I don't know some of those names there. The other thing is that I think that we have to assert our independence and be prepared to say that we will present this document to the court, whether she likes it or not.
And we did.
And I don't like her calling this an addendum. And I don't, in that sense, again, as we said before, we have to establish precedent that we are part of this and we want to make this happen. And the judge has also asked for it. And I think he'll read it and consider it, whether it's attached to the city attorney's statement or not.
I think the history of that, and Regina, you can correct me, is that when Regina was chair, she wrote the letter requesting that we be allowed to provide a statement. We are not parties. And so that the only way that we were allowed to do it was as an addendum to the city statement. And so,
yes, and in part, that's correct. It really was a conversation with Ryan Richardson. I never put anything to pen. I just said that we were substantive partners while not a part of the legal case, and that our voices should be heard. And I wanted us to be able to address a statement. I never called it an addendum. I think that's what they called it because it is not party to the case. We can call it whatever we want. They might change it. I don't know. But yes, ultimately, that's exactly where we are.
We have to assert our position. That's all. And it was new when Regina was doing it. This is all developing, I think, to some extent. But we're like the first sort of asserting ourselves and just making it clear in terms of precedent. So we want the entire thing to be considered and nobody calling any part of it out. Right. And I guess the question is, who attends? Not necessarily have to decide now the CMC, but also who is going to attend the meeting confer that you're talking about?
Well, I will, and council will, for the commission.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll also be there. Marcia, I'll also be there.
Okay.
I haven't missed one yet. Thanks.
And the commission, as chair, I am in the CMC conference with a speaking role.
Right.
So it would be very awkward for me to be on screen and have to tell them that they expunged our document. This is not our document, Judge. That would be a very bad look. Because the whole point that it was made to the mayor in the meeting is we have to stop this fiction of us not being a party, and then we are not given a full throttle voice in this process, because none of this is going to work if we are not there to catch the ball. In other words, we have to be strong. This process has to be solid in order for it to be maintained or sustained. So this whole notion that, well, like Bridget said, well, go on and do do what you do as volunteers. No, that's not good enough. You need to hear from our perspective with the work that we do and the interface that we have with the IG's office, CIPRA, with the police department, that we are full on parties, if you will, to the success of this process. So
we also become independent because of the city attorney, in the sense, because this commission has to take over certain responsibilities as we develop. And we can't be relying upon the city attorney that might have a different perspective, a different approach. And we have attorneys, and I think we have to be prepared to intervene if necessary.
Be interveners. I thought about that. Filing filing in for intervener
Mhm.
status or whatever, however it's named. I've never done it before. Of course, I know that it exists. So
So we're
that's
just establishing for the record, for posterity, that this is an independent body. We have our own attorneys. We're looking for more independence, and the charter and the enabling legislation gives us a lot more. And we just want to continue to assert that. And we got to have that from the legal office that's representing us. We got to have that approach. We can't have an approach from our legal position that is anything less than full independence of this body.
well, we certainly have fought for that in our comments and suggested changes to the enabling ordinance. That's a whole nother ad hoc that I am chairing, and we have substantially finished that work. Mariano?
I think what Brother Walter is saying is really important, especially if the monitor or the judge hears our recommendations and makes a recommendation to implement some of those, or if not all of them, then the police commission's participation in the quarterly visits and assessments and all that is going to be really key. And
Yes.
so I don't think that the police commission can be made a party because, this goes way back, 23 years ago. Yeah. But you can be made as close to, a participant, as possible. And so I hear you, brother. I think that's really important that we establish that because, we're going to need to actively participate from now to the end of the next sustainability period. Thank you.
And I think that came through when Bridget visited our NSA ad hoc, that I know that I made it clear to her whether or not they allow it or don't allow it, it will get before the court. It will be on our website. We'll give it to the news agencies. It will get out there, and it will be embarrassing for the city. And I'm not threatening them. I'm just saying you need to listen to us and quit marginalizing us. So going back to
It sounds like they are marginalizing the mayor's office also, to some extent.
She has to work that out with them.
I know, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
that
the
that's an
city
aspect
attorney's
of
office do act like they're running the whole show.
Yeah.
And they have historically taken that role on.
Yeah. I got that impression that I mean, if she were saying, if she was being, I got the impression that she was not being brought in. And if she's just being brought in now, I think that's interesting, but that's their issue. Can we go up? Can we put the document up on the screen again for the
Memo?
first paragraph?
Yes. Give me a second so I can bring it
Oh,
back.
before we do that, or while you're pulling it up, I have a quick question. Is it appropriate for us to include at the bottom like some acknowledgements of like this was developed by the police commission in collaboration with, and then like list all of our community members, or is that not appropriate in this document?
I think that we can do what we want. They didn't give us a template for our statement. So if the chair thinks it's appropriate, I certainly love the fact that we will be able to reflect on the community membership that has so eloquently guided the strategy.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to include.
Yeah, and make sure we include the people who were in the chat, like Miss Risa, Jaffe, and Nikki, and I think Millie even came on once.
So we just need a section 5 or 4 that says acknowledgements. And I think it's nice to demonstrate that like the commission didn't develop this in isolation.
Well, we would just say maybe at the very end, respectfully submit it and then
Oh, yeah, that.
make that list.
So there's a participant and there's no name, it's just a phone number. So if you wouldn't mind putting your name in the chat so we know who you are and you can be recognized as well.
Mhm. Yes, who is 510-599-1779? Can you identify yourself, please? I see your hand up. Can you put your name in the chat?
Okay. Earlier you discussed, and particularly the folks on the city council, like they just won't acknowledge it. There has been resistance to the changes proposed in the NSA since the very beginning. Jerry Brown said it'll blow over. The horrible resistance while Mayor Dellums and Mayor Kwan were in office. It got to the point that the city flirted with the plaintiff's counsel said, look, this isn't working. It's not working under the prior monitor or the current one. And maybe we just have, to go to receivership. And Judge Henderson was in there. And what he ordered the parties to do, which I thought was wise, negotiate, see if you can come up with an agreement short of receivership, which they did, which enhanced the monitor's authority, particularly over personnel matters. And of course, the department's been up in arms against that. And I agree with those of you that have mentioned that the cultural resistance, a lot of it resides in the sergeants and the lieutenants. They groom people to, do the wrong thing. And there's been, whether it's the stop policy, the changes so that we're not racial profiling, the chase policy, there's all this chatter and they try to turn the public against, and folks are upset about the crime and the safety and saying, well, we could do this for you, but we have these rules or we have this NSA paperwork that we have to do. And we're in this environment where we can't. And of course, the piece de resistance is the career impunity for anyone. I mean, even most of the rank and file admit there's bias in the discipline system in favor of certain people. And all of, whether it was Tran or Officer Chung, political connections, they were running programs that the department, needed to have for community safety and for particularly the API community. They didn't want to take away an employee that was, take out an employee that was, and so we're here where, and everyone's talking now about sustainability. I really like what you've said, that no one except for, I've had conversations with former Mayor Kwan in particular about, and her staff, about the level of NSA resistance. And you got a lot of people on the council too that, they don't want to go to war with the union and politically. And the last thing I will say, having done oversight work for 40 years, one good leader immersed in the OPD culture or the policing culture, people leave, people get pressured and stuff. And, when it's a full-fledged, thin blue line, we're protecting these people, that's what people want to do in the department. You can't stand up and say no. And we saw it with Wendt and we saw it with Armstrong. And there's certain things in that culture that don't allow the top leadership to lead, or, you know, you've got somebody who's two-sided. The public is, I'm a constitutional and community policing person. I support the NSA. And then privately, they're making exceptions. And they're
Yeah.
going along with what, so that's, I think, where we are on that. And I think your statement addresses it. The one other thing I've got to add is you can't look at the court conference, for example, where the city attorney edited out a big part of the commission's statement without acknowledging what was going on in 2023 with the leadership on the commission running a recruitment process while rooting for Armstrong. Certain leaders on the commission wanted to, you know, bring him back, or, you know, conspiring with him. And there was some really hard stuff like just, you know, drop the monitor and let the community take over. And that's the community sentiment. And, you know, both Commissioner Harbin Forte and Chair Malele are gone now. But some of the stuff that happened in that time period was because of what they were doing.
No question. And thanks for your comments. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, yes. My name is Mary. My last name is Vail, V as in Victor, AIL. I'm a almost 39-year resident of Oakland in the Glenview. I was when my neighborhood was in District 5, I was the District 5 Councilman Gallo appointee to the selection panel. And I'm a member of, you know, on the other side of the Bay, Bar Association, police reform groups, and I'm a member of the CPA, and I participated in the drafting of the charter.
Yes, thank you so much.
So you're welcome. I just sent, I think, yeah, staff posted this exact time with the access information on LinkedIn, and I was reading LinkedIn. It was like 10 minutes into your meeting, and I wrote down the phone number and the meeting code and joined you about 15, 20 minutes into the meeting.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And
then we have Mr. Marquise Williams. Do you want to come on and say anything, Mr. Williams? If not, that's okay. Are we going to finish this introductory portion today, or are we meeting again next week? Because we are way over our time, guys. Walter.
I would say let the person who has the final draft, I'm not sure who that is right now, add the comments that we had earlier. I mean, this is just standard introduction kind of stuff, recognizing sort of the history of who we are, but and then we can review it either online or next week. The amount of time we have now is, I'm getting pressure. So.
That's okay. I understand. You guys, I can't thank you enough for your devotion and commitment to this work. Thank you so much.
Chair Peterson, let me, excuse me, let me, I just want to make sure that whoever, if it's going to be Chair Jackson, Commissioner Jackson, Castaigne or Mariano, whoever it is, that they cover the points that we discussed. One of them was the role that Felton Henderson and his history, and the fact that I'm just amazed that for 5 years they didn't even communicate with him. I think that should be mentioned. So I think some history starting from that standpoint of Judge Henderson's role and history, and that the only reason that the point that Reggie brought up about culture change, the NSA is the only reason that OPD has not reverted to the behavior that brought about the NSA to begin with. And that lastly, that it's no coincidence that the longest running NSA in the history of the U.S. is right here in Oakland. And it's no coincidence that that's the case at the same time that there's now the strongest police commission in the country here. Both, one is the result of the other.
Well, can I ask this? Jose, Walter, and Regina, look at this first introductory part and make a paragraph or two about the history. Walter's thumb is up.
Okay,
Jose's thumb is up. Regina,
my mouth is up or
Yeah.
open.
it's up. Okay.
And may I make a suggestion? When we go through and list the thank yous, can you reference Jose Dorado as former commissioner?
Sure.
Or former OPC? Yeah, because that's really important.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Regina.
And Katina, I
Absolutely.
don't think my former edits were incorporated into the version you have now. I'm not sure though. So if you either want to merge them or if you send me the link to this current version, then I can do that as well. It's just the like
Is it your redlined version?
Not of the conclusion of the entire document that I sent a couple
Yeah, I
weeks ago.
think your redline version was actually the document that into which we incorporated the commission of the committee's edits. So they should be in there.
Okay. Well, if you want to send me the link, I can cross check if you need me to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got that. How do they communicate? Jose, Walter, Regina, their additions. Do they send them to Micah? Or send them to all of us? How do you want to do it? So send it to Micah and if you could send it, is it by Friday? Today is Tuesday. So that we could have time to look at it over the weekend, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, Friday
Okay.
sounds good.
Friday sounds good. I think that we ought,
because Tina's going to be actually doing the updates, so she needs visibility.
and I think it also makes sense to copy Angela because she has been, I think, very strategic with real efficient framework for addressing.
Yeah.
So maybe we just, maybe Micah, maybe we should just copy everybody that's on the ad hoc. Thoughts?
Yes.
Okay. And in so doing, that means everybody will have a chance to look at it and be prepared to make any comments or revisions. So thank you. And thank you, Mariano, Commissioner Jackson Castaigne, Deacon Lyles, and Pastor Jackie for your draft of the conclusion. And we look forward to the revised draft of the introduction by Jose, Walter, and Commissioner Jackson. Look, we've gone over by almost 45 minutes. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your commitment, and see you next week.
Are you sending us dinner, Marcia?
I wish I could. My budget doesn't allow it because I know you guys, you only want stuff from 5-star Michelin restaurants. So don't want any of those Subway sandwiches that I can actually afford.
Good
But
night,
listen,
folks.
when this is all over, let's have a party.
Let's do
Yeah.
that. Let's do that.
Sounds
I'm
good.
down
Okay,
for
have a
that.
good evening.
Take
Have a good
care.
evening. Thank you.